Hi, everyone. This is Jim Hewling, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you to this episode of Execution Insights. Now, this past week, I had a rare opportunity. I got to sit down with a leader that I've known for many years and known him well. He's a dear friend. But this time, he was exhausted and honest in a way that most people rarely allow themselves to be in a coaching environment. He just looked at me and said, Jim, I've become really good at the trivial. And I'm afraid I've become incompetent at the things that truly matter. Wow, that's quite a line, isn't it? And it stayed with me, not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. I could sense it. And I also think many leaders quietly feel the same way. We move through our days at high speed and we make decisions. We talk nonstop. We sit through endless meetings. And yet, at the end of the day, it's often hard to point to anything meaningful we actually accomplished. Do you know what I mean? And it's not because we didn't work hard. Goodness gracious, all of us in leadership work hard. And it's not because we didn't work deep. We're always searching for the better and bigger answers. In fact, it's not a productivity problem, it's a soul problem. You see, too many leaders are living in the shallows. And in those shallows, I want to tell you, life is noisy. Meetings seem to multiply on their own, and all the conversations stay up on the surface. In a very real sense, we perform instead of connecting. You know, we react instead of listening. We move fast, but not meaningfully. And the truth is, nothing alive grows in the shallows. Now, sometimes we believe deep work becomes possible if only we can eliminate every distraction. But I want to tell you that's a trap. It's not true. That's not where depth begins. Depth begins when you and I reconnect with what matters most, when our inner yes becomes stronger than all the outside noise. I remember really well a season in my own leadership when everything looked successful on the outside, the title, the results, the numbers, the recognition, and yet something essential inside me had actually gone quiet. And in that moment, I didn't need a new plan. I just needed to hear my own voice again. And during that time, I returned to some words I've always treasured from Pope John Paul II. He said, do not be afraid. Do not be satisfied with mediocrity. Put out into the deep water and let down your nets. You will find what you seek. It's powerful, isn't it? And you see, those words don't call me to rest. They call me to courage. They call me to the courage to leave the surface level busyness behind and step into those deeper waters, of presence and listening and authenticity. Because the deeper water, well, that's where all the treasure is. So, how do we reclaim our depth? Well, here's a practice I offer to leaders, and I use it myself almost every single day. It's simple and it's quiet, but I promise you this, it's genuinely transformative. This week, block 1 hour on your calendar with no tasks, no meetings, no interruptions, nothing else to be done. And in that hour, have a meeting with your soul. You see, you can't hear the truth when you're moving at high speed. You've got to dig below the surface. And to do that, we need to ask the questions we've been avoiding. Questions like, what's really most important right now? And what am I not seeing that everyone else does? And what courageous thing am I actually avoiding by being so busy? And once you ask these questions, then be quiet. Just listen for the answer because the answers will rise. The truth you need is always one level deeper than the level of the question you're asking. And all you have to do is walk through the door that insight will open. Even if it's a small step, you just take it one at a time. Because when you and I, as leaders, choose depth over speed, then it changes everything, our decisions, our influence, even the culture we're trying to create. So if you want your leadership to change, if you want to get into that deeper water, start by changing the depth at which you show up. At the end of it all, great leaders don't skim the surface. They go where the deep water is, because that's where transformation awaits. I hope you've enjoyed this message today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Execution Insights. Until then, I'm Jim Huling. I'll see you soon.